Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Giles Gibson. Let's take a look at your latest headlines. The Kremlin says Russia is yet to decide if it will extend its participation in the Ukraine grain deal that expires later this month. The German Chancellor calls on Serbia and Kosovo to, quote, speed up normalisation of ties at a summit with West Balkan states hosted by Berlin. Japan's Prime Minister says it's outrageous and absolutely intolerable that North Korea fired at least 3 missiles, including a suspected intercontinental ballistic missile. And according to reports, Elon Musk is planning to cut almost 4,000 jobs at Twitter. That's about half of the company's workforce in a bid to cut costs. We start with some breaking news that's coming out of Pakistan, and 4 people, including one of Imran Khan's managers, have been injured after an ongoing march was fired upon. Let's go straight to our correspondent, Anis Malik, who's in Islamabad for us. Anis, just walk us through, what are these reports? What do we know so far?
So what we know that this is just trickled in that Imran Khan is injured. He has how has he been injured? It's still unclear. Initial reports say that he's injured because of the firing and he's moved in his own vehicle to the hospital. That's what we know. We heard announcements from the container. This happened as his caravan entered Wazirabad just after exiting Gujranwala today. And so now the latest piece of information is that Imran Khan has taken a bullet in the lower side of his foot. This is what Yasmin Rashid is saying, the Punjab Health Minister. At least 4 people are said to have been injured in this firing, or what is being tipped off as an assassination attempt on Imran Khan's Real Freedom rally, as it was parading its way from Lahore to Islamabad. It was supposed to enter Islamabad on the 11th of November. Today it was en route towards Gujarat, and just before that, as it entered Wazirabad city, the caravan has undergone firing. What PTI says it's an assassination attempt. And Yasmin Rashid, the Punjab Health Minister, has confirmed that Imran Khan, Pakistan's former Prime Minister, is injured in this firing incident. Ollie?
And Anis, just to explain to us some of the background here. Why is Imran Khan on that march? What was the purpose of it? And what do we know about this potential attack on it?
Well, what we know that the purpose of this potential attack could be a way to silence him. We've seen that Pakistan has had a history of critics or political opponents being silenced. We've seen an attempt on Benazir Bhutto, the former Pakistani Prime Minister, in 2007, in October, when she returned to the country, and then in December 2007, where she lost her life. So political opponents being silenced in Pakistan is something that, unfortunately, we've seen that trend. Why Imran Khan had been marching is that he says that his ouster was not fair and square, that it was a quote-unquote foreign imported regime or a conspiracy that was there, and as a reason of which he was marching from Lahore to Islamabad demanding the ouster of the government, demanding a fresh election, saying that he would camp, he would do a sit-in in Lahore, in Islamabad, until they announce a fresh election. What I can now confirm, yes, Imran Khan has taken a bullet in his foot. Which foot is it? It's still unclear. Oli, just as I said, it's a developing story. It's the information keeps on trickling in. Imran Khan is safe. That's what is being reported. Imran Khan's condition is out of danger. That is also what is being reported, and that he has taken a bullet in one of his foot. Oli.
All right, Anas, thanks very much for that. That was our correspondent live for us in Islamabad in Pakistan, and we'll bring you more details on that breaking news as soon as we get them. Let's switch over to the UK now, and the Bank of England is expected to hike its key interest rate by the largest amount since 1989. Analysts are expecting an increase of 0.75%, which would take interest rates up from 2.25% to 3%. The Bank of England has raised rates multiple times this year to try to put a lid on inflation. This move by the BOE would mirror aggressive rates tightening by central banks all over the world as global economies battle soaring inflation. On Wednesday, the US Federal Reserve in Washington announced a fourth consecutive hike, this time by 0.75%. While central banks are trying to rein in inflation, these rate hikes can also mean higher credit card bills and mortgage payments for millions of people. After the economic policy of the short-lived UK Prime Minister Liz Truss spooked the markets earlier this year, the new UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is trying to reassure international investors about the country's public finances, with his Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, due to give an autumn statement on the 17th of November. UK inflation is currently hovering at just over 10%. That's the highest level we've seen in this country in 40 years, off the back of soaring food prices and also energy bills. All right, let's get some more analysis on this story, and we're joined live by Jonathan Liss, who is Deputy Director of the British Influence think tank and also a journalist. Jonathan, thanks very much for joining us. We get this announcement from the Bank of England by my count in about 22, 23 minutes. What are we expecting? 0.75%, perhaps a bit less? What are we expecting?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but it's the most analysts are expecting it to be 0.75%, which would, as you say, be the largest rise for many, many years, and would take interest rates to their highest level since 2008, before the financial crisis, which is obviously going to be very bad news for people who have mortgages, and is going to increase the cost of living crisis for hundreds of thousands or millions of people in Britain.
Yeah, just dig into that a bit for me. What is the impact on sort of ordinary people in the UK when the Bank of England decides to make this sort of decision? Of course, we end up talking a lot about its impact on markets, but what's the effect on just ordinary people's lives?
Well, a lot of people in Britain who have homes are on tracker mortgages, which mean that the mortgages are aligned to interest rates set by the Bank of England, because the UK government has not set interest rates since 1997, so it's set by the Independent Bank of England. And obviously we have a serious cost of living crisis in Britain at the moment. Inflation, as you said, at 10%, that's projected to rise further in the coming few months. And that a large bulk of that has been with energy bills, but also with massive rise in food prices, for example. And so if you are telling people to pay an extra few £100s a month in mortgage repayments, that is going to become unaffordable for many, many people. And so we could be seeing a return to the crisis that we had in the early 1990s, when people had their homes repossessed because they couldn't keep up with mortgage payments.
All right, thank you very much. That was Jonathan Liss joining us with some analysis on that decision from the Bank of England, which we are expecting in terms of interest rates in the next 20 minutes or so. Now, as the threat of an energy crisis looms over Europe this winter due to the ongoing war in Ukraine, Germany's government has signed off on an energy price cap. The policy is the cornerstone of a massive $198 billion package to try to shield households and businesses from rising costs. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the governors of the country's 16 states have agreed on a two-stage plan to tackle high gas prices. Here's more details on that story.
One thing is clear, it won't go all the way down to the level we had before the Russian war of aggression on Ukraine, but it will be an increase that is not as enormous as what some people have received as a bill, and where they feared, I can never pay that.
Now, Europe's largest economy is drifting towards recession and inflation has shot past 10%. German businesses have also been crying out for help in this time. The plan will see the price for a certain percentage of household as well as businesses' typical consumption capped at lower than market prices. 25,000 larger businesses as well as almost 2,000 hospitals and schools will also benefit from the cap.
Perhaps the central message for many people in Germany is that the €49 ticket will come, if possible, on January 1st, otherwise as soon as possible in 2023. The financial foundation for this has been laid today. This is an important practical improvement for the lives of many people.
Now, Germany's energy price shield will be partly financed through new government borrowing. That's via an economic stabilisation fund that was created during the coronavirus pandemic. Berlin also intends to fund this cap by skimming off a slice of some of these huge profits that we are seeing from energy companies this year, with fossil fuel prices soaring off the back of the war in Ukraine. Now, the threat of rising inflation is playing out in pretty much every major European economy right now, and in Turkey, the inflation rate has accelerated to 85.51% in October. According to official data, that's the highest level since 1997. As we've been discussing, central banks worldwide are raising borrowing costs in an effort to try to control soaring inflation. But Turkey has bucked that global trend. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has called higher interest rates his biggest enemy. Last month, Turkey's central bank cut its policy rate for a third consecutive time, bringing it down to 10.5% from 12%. Turkey is set to hold elections next year, and President Erdogan argues that high interest rates are the cause of inflation, not the opposite. That's what most economists around the world would maintain. Fresh Russian attacks have been reported across large areas of Ukraine. According to reports, heavy shelling in numerous regions has once again damaged key infrastructure in the country. Ukrainian officials say the shelling also damaged the electricity supply to Europe's largest nuclear plant. The firm that runs the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine says it's been disconnected from the power grid again. That leaves it with just diesel generators. The company says the facility in southern Ukraine has just 15 days worth of fuel to run those generators. Although its 6 reactors are currently shut down, they still need a constant supply of electricity to keep the nuclear fuel inside cool and to prevent a potential nuclear disaster. Meanwhile, let's take a closer look at a village in the Kharkiv region in Ukraine that's endured daily shelling since the start of the war. According to reports, around 3,000 people used to live in the Ukrainian village of Petropavlovka. That's before the Russian invasion. And now there are no more than 800 residents.
Here everything is in ruins. Over there everything is in ruins. Smoke everywhere. Smoke and silence. God, I almost fell over. I ran over to the cellar. They're answering from the cellar. And then, covered in blood, over there on the steps, whose blood is it? It's my daughter's, Katerina. A fragment pierced her arm.
You can hear explosions almost every minute, and we have hits on residential buildings and infrastructure every day. You can see almost all the villages destroyed.
Meanwhile, Russia is summoning the UK's ambassador to Russia to the Foreign Ministry in Moscow. Deborah Bronnert was called in to discuss the alleged involvement of the United Kingdom in the 29th of October attack on Russia's Black Sea Fleet. That is a claim from the Kremlin that the UK government has strongly denied. Let's cross over to Asia now, and North Korea has fired another series of missiles, triggering sirens in parts of Japan. The launches forced residents to seek shelter in central and northern regions of Japan. Take a listen.
We detected that the missile that was launched around 7:40 a.m. might fly over Japan, so we put out a J alert. But later we have confirmed that the missile did not fly over Japan and disappeared in the skies above the sea of Japan. So we would like to rectify our announcement.
Now, while none of the missiles flew over Japan itself, at least one of them fell into the country's territorial waters. North Korea also tested what's believed to be an intercontinental ballistic missile, but its launch failed following its second stage separation. These are the latest launches in a record-breaking year of missile testing by Pyongyang. On Wednesday, the country fired its highest number of missiles within the space of 24 hours. And in South Korea, the government was forced to issue air raid warnings. North Korea's neighbours have been voicing their concerns about these repeated launches, Seoul calling them a territorial invasion and Tokyo condemning them as, quote, an outrage that cannot be forgiven.
A ballistic missile was launched earlier. The continuous launch of ballistic missiles is outrageous and absolutely intolerable.
Now, Pyongyang says these launches are in retaliation against military exercises that have been conducted by the US and South Korea. The Korean peninsula has already seen more than 50 missiles launched by North Korea this year alone. Despite crippling economic sanctions, Pyongyang has also conducted 6 nuclear tests between 2006 and 2017, and there's now speculation that it could be planning a 7th in the weeks to come. Staying in Asia, Japan has asked all households and companies across the country to conserve electricity within a, quote, reasonable range during winter. That's the peak season in terms of electricity demand. All of this is designed to prevent potential electricity shortages in the world's third largest economy. The programme will run between December and March and will encourage people to save electricity by turning off unnecessary lights and also wearing more layers of clothing to stay warm indoors and turn down the heating. As well as a lack of just general capacity, the surge in prices for liquefied natural gas combined with a weak yen have made it very costly for Japan to procure fuel. Supplies have also been tight in recent years as nuclear power plants have been slow to restart after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. Hundreds of Ukrainians have gathered in Istanbul for a concert of one of Ukraine's most prominent rock bands, known as the Hard Kiss. The event was organised to help raise funds for Ukrainian children who've been affected by the ongoing Russian invasion. Take a look. Now, there's a long-running debate about whether European museums should repatriate cultural artefacts that were acquired from various countries during the colonial era. And now a robot is being used to carve exact replicas of parts of the Elgin marbles, which were originally part of the Parthenon temple in Athens, but are now part of the British Museum in London's collection. Take a look at this next story.
This robotic arm is carving out a highly accurate replica of the Selene horse. A marble sculpture, part of the collection by Phidias, made to decorate a temple in Greece some 2,500 years ago. The replica is now on display at the Freud Museum in London. And experts believe that such highly precise replicas could push the British Museum to finally return the prized Elgin marbles to Greece.
The British Museum currently uses hundreds of copies of objects to teach people about art history. In fact, in the two galleries right next to the gallery where the Elgin marbles are, it's filled with reconstructions. They've got reconstructions of the Temple of Darius and the Temple of Xerxes. They also have reconstructions of many of the Parthenon sculptures that are still in Greece. So this is a museum that's already making ample use of reconstructions to teach people why, with respect to these particular objects, it's almost like it's because the Greeks want them that we won't give them back.
There has been some back and forth. Athens has been requesting for these marbles to be returned. But the British Museum says that the sculptures were legally acquired in the year 1816 by a British diplomat, a claim that Greece denies. Now, with these superbly precise replicas, the hope is that the replicas could be kept in Britain, while the original ones can be sent back to Greece. This robot can recreate the entire collection of marbles in around 18 months.
What I'd like to see personally is a phased approach, and people have talked about this, whereby some number of sculptures leave perhaps this year, and then as people get used to that idea, perhaps more of them the following year. So I think that the idea of a compromise, a partnership, a phased approach, all that makes a lot of sense in the context of a conflict that's gone on for 200 years. To expect anybody to turn on a dime, I think that's expecting a lot.
The British Museum says no discussions are currently underway with the Greek government on the return of the sculptures, but experts are hopeful that this robotic arm could provide a way forward for repatriation of the prized sculptures. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's finish up with some sports news, and Bangladesh wicketkeeper Nurul Hassan has accused Indian cricketer Virat Kohli of, quotes, fake fielding, following India's narrow 5-run victory in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup on Wednesday. The alleged incident occurred on the second ball of the 7th over during Bangladesh's run chase, when Liton Das played the ball towards deep point off of Akshar Patel. As Arshdeep Singh threw the ball towards the wicketkeeper's end, former Indian captain Kohli, who was standing at point, appeared to make a throwing action himself. At the time, it went unnoticed as the on-field umpires didn't take any action. Cricket's laws prohibit the, quotes, deliberate distraction, deception or obstruction of the batter, and if a player is deemed to have done that, the umpire can declare the particular delivery a dead ball and awards the batting side 5 runs. Chasing 184, Bangladesh were cruising at 66 for no loss after 7 overs when the skies opened up. The nearly 1-hour rain delay slowed their momentum and they eventually fell short, chasing a revised target of 151. The rivalry between India and Bangladesh dates back to 2007, when Bangladesh pulled off an upset and knocked favourites India out of the group stages of the ODI World Cup. And that's all we've got time for today. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned to WION for more news from South Asia and around the world.
There are many other